Perfect. Okay, amazing. So I'll get us started then.
Yeah,
Um,
please, Juliet.
so welcome everybody to She's of Love. Um, this week we have Mandy on the show once again, which is always such a blessing and always just such a beautiful and exciting episode of like learning and just receiving your wisdom, Mandy. So thanks for coming on again.
Thank you for the invitation.
Always.
Just
Today
yes.
Today's topic is around crumbling of identities. And I guess for me, what this topic kind of means is letting your ego letting your ego go.
Mhm.
And just kind of allowing yourself to come forward and like your heart and just being who you are without needing to I guess label yourself or become, letting go of stereotypes, letting go of limitations of boxes, and just like free flowing to be whoever you need to be, really, and whoever you want to be as well. So I'll hand the mic over as always to you, Mandy, and you just take this wherever you want to take it, and we'll just follow along.
All right. It's quite a for me right now and has been for about the last month, I suppose. Really, really showing up. Like, we get these waves of a theme going on,
Mm.
and that's part of it this time is breaking through these identities that we have, because there's many. And what that so yes, we have that ego, and that's the character that's had to play out certain roles for others, for ourselves as well, which have been entangled in the emotional program and patterning, and the whole collective patterning as well, that we've all been playing out for eons of time, like ever and ever and ever. And this is why I know everyone can feel the importance of this lifetime and their role in the bigger picture. And those of you who are like we are here, everyone calls it light workers, I call it love workers. We're here sharing the best that we can be. That's our program, really, in the sense, if we got a program, is to become the best that we can be. And that there is about letting go of the parts of us that aren't necessary to play out any longer. And this is where we're up to. It's like we've been transitioning through so much. We've been releasing so much of ourselves, and you're seeing, all the old playgrounds, as I call them, that we used to play in, that are not a part of our life now, that might have been 5 years ago, but they're actually not playing
Mm.
out in any way, shape, or form now. So those parts of ourself were a character part, or an aspect, if we want to put it that way, that was playing out those parts, right? And what I've been saying to everyone that's listening to me at the moment is about really going in, like, microscopically going into your character, going into every relationship that you have with every single person. So we might have 3 children or 2 children or 4, but each child, you're going to have a different relationship with each one. They're not the same. And so every single person that you have a relationship with is going to have yourself playing out a part of you in it, right? And it might not be the whole of you, but it'll be a part of you. So if you look at every single relationship that you're in with every single person, that's why I say microscopic, because it's going to take a while to go through them. But when you do, what you'll find is, and I'm sure you will, is there's parts of yourself now that don't need to be playing out what you used to play out in there. And what you'll notice is, oh my gosh, that's with that one there. And when I look over here and I go into this relationship and look at that, I can see a part of that part of me too is playing out here. And it's actually null and void now. There's no need for me to be carrying on this character in that relationship now, because
Mm.
that part of me is not there anymore. Yet we might, through habit and just comfortable and familiar and all the things that go with it, play out still. We could be still playing it out because it is just a habit, or it's just
Mhm.
a way that we are with that person, whereas actually it may be a really valid part of yourself that isn't here any longer, that isn't necessary to play out any longer. And
Mm.
it's all the things, it's all the different roles we've played. I was his wife. Well, I'm not his wife any longer. So that part of me that was the wife character is not necessary any longer. So therefore I'm and it just came to me the other day, one of my biggest statements I think that I have and have had forever in this lifetime is that love's too painful. It hurts too much. There's too much pain in love. And that is because of our entanglement. That's because of our emotional entanglements, right? When we come into the purity of the essence of love itself, which is your true God self, that spark within, that part there is not a painful part. It's a glorious part. It's a joyful and full and expansive part. Whereas we tend to create love here on the planet in our three-dimensional, if that's where we want to take it, and whatever vibration we're in, there's a lot of dense emotion connected to that love state that we consider love. And what we actually find, what I found, and really going into it, and this is why, again, part of the reason have been on my own for 23 odd years. I've said 23 years, but I don't know how long, so I have no idea how long it actually is. But it's been a long time. And what I found in that was that I was in love with the love thing. I was in love
Yes.
with love. It wasn't playing out in those relationships because there was so much wounding. So therefore, that's where the pain lies. And the pain lies in the separation that we believe we have when they pass on. And when I looked at why does this hurt so much? All of that entanglement stuff, emotional, etc. But I also remember hearing, and I've said it myself, when there's no love, we die. Like when
Mm.
somebody's not nurtured and cared for, if we're a newborn baby and we're never held, and the bottle's just stuck in the cot and the baby's feeding off it with no human touch, other than maybe changing a nappy or whatever it might be, those children are very disturbed. And there was I can never remember. It wasn't Ukraine. There's
That
those
was
orphan babies.
Romania.
Yes, Romania, that's it.
Yes, I
And
remember
there
them.
was a documentary on them and how they had never
Yes.
been held. And man,
Yes.
the trauma those babies were in just from that, which is
Yeah.
huge. So
Yeah.
there's that thing around we die when we don't have love, right? We shrivel up. There's something we need nurture and care and love. And if that's not there, we die. And when I said this, and I was pondering this the other day, it was like, oh my God, that's what our grief is. Our grief is not that we've lost someone that we loved, it's losing the part of ourself that died with that being, that person, that animal, that whatever it was.
Yeah.
We die. There's a part of us that dies with them. And that is the character part that was playing out the relationship with that person. And what we're
Hmm.
actually doing, if we look at everything being us, we are it all. We are the universe. We are this whole cosmic play out. We're everything in it. If we are one in the oneness state of that, then there's a part of us that we're missing. And we're missing and grieving that part of self.
Yeah.
So that was a big aha moment too, coming back to the grief side of things. But yeah.
Yeah.
I um oh, sorry, Mum.
No, you go, Juliet. I
I,
can wait.
I was just going to say something that really aligns with exactly what you're talking about, Mandy, with love and grief. I find also that grief, the reason that we grieve so much when we lose someone is because we have that aspect of our love. Like, for example, if you lose a mother or if you lose a father, you have a lot of love streaming towards them constantly, and you can play that out physically in 3D reality. But then when they go, that path of love is no longer there. We have all this
Mm.
love that we usually reserve for this person, and now it's like left over. And exactly what you're saying about love hurts, it's painful, and it's really it's very true. And I think I'm experiencing a little bit of that at the moment in this odd way where I think being so far away from home, I've experienced a level of grief because I can't play out the aspect of me that lives at home, and I miss
So
it.
Juliet, explain to the people who've not familiar, like we will have people watching who aren't familiar with your journey. So why aren't you at home? Where are you?
I'm in I'm in Scotland at the moment, and I'll be here hopefully for 6 months. Um, I'm in a tiny little town in the middle of the Highlands, and it's super beautiful, but it's the exact direct opposite of Sydney. And
Mm.
it's snowing, and I was playing in the ice today. I was crunching the ice. There was the I cannot even explain it. It was like a sheet of ice, and I
But
was
it's
just
frost, isn't it?
no, but but it was like a sheet of like thin ice, and I was just
Yeah,
crunching through it. And
yeah.
it's so satisfying, and I've never experienced this stuff. And I back onto the grief thing though, but I guess yeah, I wake up and I'm like, I feel
Sorry.
the oh, that's okay. I just feel the distance, and I feel the level of like how far away I am. And I grieve the aspect of me that lives at home and spends a lot of time with my family, and I can't express that love in physical hugs and stuff. It has to be over the phone, which is still fine. It's still great, but it is a level of grief of losing a part of myself.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a very real thing that you're talking about. I'm experiencing it right now.
Yeah. And we look at it as we're missing them, but actually it's the part of ourself that is playing that
Mm.
part out.
Yeah,
That's what
Yeah, that's
we're
right.
actually missing when you really look at it.
yeah,
It's
Mm.
interesting. Mm.
yeah. Very,
I
very much
found
so.
I lost my dad in 2014. He passed away. And so that's been 10 years now. Um, and I, over that 10-year period, the grief has morphed, it's changed. And I still cry when something reminds me of him and it reminds me that he's no longer here.
Mm.
But the love is still there. I still feel him. I still
Yeah.
feel the energy that of him, because when you're in the presence of certain people, you can feel the energy of that person. You
Yes.
can
There's a
you can
signature.
feel,
Mm.
yeah, there's exactly a signature. That's the word I'm looking
Mm.
for. I still feel that actually around me, and that signature energy is actually with me more now than when he was alive,
Mm-hmm.
because it feels like I carry it with me. I've learned over the last 10 years how to tap into it. And this is the beautiful thing about grief, actually, because when he was alive, I wasn't aware of the things that I'm aware of now. I wasn't aware of that signature energy, even though he was my dad and I knew him. And when he would walk past a room or if he was around the house, I knew it was him. It's like
Mm.
from different sounds, different feelings that would come when he would walk past, even though there was a wall between us or I couldn't see him.
Yeah.
And that feeling is now with me all the time. And I didn't realize it when he was alive because it was just normal stuff. Now that he's
Mm.
gone, I go, he's not around, but I still feel him. So it's like I
Mm,
can, I recognize the difference. And
Mm.
I'm so grateful for that. I'm sad that I don't get to see him physically and touch him physically. I'm sad about that. But I'm so grateful that I carry his energy in my heart and in my
Mm.
body, and I can feel him around me. And anytime I want to, I've got a problem or I'm sad or, and I want to conjure him up, his energy
Yeah.
and his vibration, I can do that because I remember what it was like when he was around. And
Mm.
that aspect of grief was unexpected for me. I didn't I didn't know that was possible, and
Mm.
I'm very, very, very grateful for that because it's like
Yeah.
he's in my pocket all the time. It's
It's
really
cool, eh?
lovely.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
is, it's a comfort when you really know that, like actually know that. And even in my knowing, I've still grieved the human self.
Yeah.
Can't actually hold that hand anymore, can't give them a hug.
No.
It's the physical thing that
Yeah.
that I think we grieve in respect to
Yeah.
how we and what we can give and how we can't give that anymore.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely
that.
a void.
Mm,
There's definitely a void there. Um, and I don't know, I think from my younger self to myself now, my younger self was always afraid of sadness. I was always very like avoiding it. I didn't want like, death and, all of
yeah.
the things that bring all that sadness. I didn't want
Mm.
to know about it. It was too heavy. It was too much for me. And I was like constantly like turning away from it. And then you
Mm,
get to a point where you can't do that anymore because it has a presence in your life. People
Mm.
around you start passing away, and and it's not just death. It's like people come in and out of your life, and friends disappear, and your life changes, or you get married and your life takes a different direction, things like that.
mm,
So it starts to become more and more part of your life. And I didn't expect, I was like, I've dealt with sadness, I've dealt with grief. It's not as scary anymore. And I've
mm,
found ways in which I can deal with it. And I'm a stronger person because of it. And it's still sad,
yeah.
I still miss my dad, of course. Um,
Mm,
but I've learned through maturity and through dealing with these things that there's a positive side of it
Mm.
that I never saw before. I never saw it. I always thought it was just
mm,
negative, negative, negative until I
yeah.
got into it, until I started to experience it. And then I realized, no, there are positives about it.
Mm, yeah.
And that was a surprise to me, huge
Yeah.
surprise to me. Yeah. And I'm
Mm,
so grateful for that, that I, got to see that.
yeah, for sure. It does make it easier. And there's
Mm,
still, even like I say, even though we might have that and we realize that, there's still can be series of grief that we're going through with that connection. And it's
yes.
allowing that and not giving self a hard time about it either, because it comes from many different lifetimes of losing people.
Mm.
It's like it's a big long thread of all of that grief.
Yeah.
And it may be just connected to one person, even like that with your dad. You've probably been many lifetimes together, being different characters in each other's lives. And,
Yes.
you know, and I think
Yeah.
when somebody sees you, like my dad saw me, he my mum too, I have to say, they actually saw who I was and recognized it and all of that and allowed me to be. And
That's
so,
beautiful.
losing people that walk with you in life, in this life particularly, because I think we've had such a long, hard one this time,
Yes.
um, God, and to have people beside you or walking in your life that actually see you, know you, support you, love you.
Mm,
We've really needed that and required that in our journey this time more than ever, I think.
Mm.
And maybe not either, just seems like it's probably just because we know it this time, but more so.
mm.
So
Mandy,
yeah, it's big.
I
Mm,
wanted to ask you actually about the letting go of parts of ourselves that are no longer needed. Do you think that's um a natural process? Does it just fall away, or are we noticing it and then kicking it to the curb? Like, how in your experience, what you're experiencing now, how's it working?
Yeah. So I want to say yes, it's a natural experience, right? Because this energy frequency that we are raising ourselves in is bringing everything up to just let it move through, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've always been the girl that questions things, right? And I've always gone down with one question, it's taken me down all these rabbit holes and I find all this new information and things. So I've always been that girl. So I need to understand. That's just what I'm like. I need to
Mm.
point it here and map it out here and see where it's been and what it's given me, the depth of it, and so that I can identify parts of myself, whether it's necessary or not to carry on with, right? So that's always been me. But if you're not that person, and I was just listening, there's a new guy on the block basically on YouTube now. His name's Darius J. Wright, and he's such the lion. Like the lion essence is really, really here present at the moment. The lions are waking up, but he's of the Lyran, I would say, clan, and he talks about walking through different. So his base conversation is around uh, leaving his body. So he travels out of bodies, and he's not astral projecting. He's not going into the astral realms. He's going into all the realms, and he's talking about doing all this. And I'm going, oh yeah, I've been there. Oh yeah, I've had a look at that. Yeah, I know that place, and it just reminded me of how many times I've traveled into different places, like the mental realm, which is just like a mass mental spaghetti network of all the thought. It's the thought realm, and oh my God, all these different realms. And yet I don't talk about that a lot. I don't put it out there and say this is what I've been doing until we get into some sort of conversation like this. But he was reminding me of all of these different ways that I've taught myself to learn new things, right? And to question and to query, because if we didn't do that, look where we would have been, when we had to get our arm out, we would have been just following
Yes.
in there and going in there and doing all that. So I've been the girl that stood back, goes, hang on a minute, what is this about? And I go in energetically and look. So in that, where I was heading with that is that we have places now that are coming up for us, parts of ourselves that are coming up that are actually moving on, because the more you become aware of who you truly are, you realize and you just move away from and out of those parts of yourself that are not necessarily necessary to play out any longer. So the
Mm.
parts of you that have been moving through your emotional programs, your patterning, the environmental stuff, like, there's a whole world sitting over there that I just do not engage into. It doesn't hold anything in there for me anymore. So therefore I have no interest in looking. People still send me stuff and I might pop in and have a little gaze, but it's all the same information, regurgitated by somebody else saying something different again about it. But so it's still the same thing playing out over and over and over and over. So just recently, I kept getting at the last center that I was to take, instead of giving message and tuning into you and giving you some light language message, from your light about where you're heading or what might be possible for you, which I'll do on Sunday. But last Sunday, the other month, I was really getting a strong feel to take them through energy work, because what I kept getting was that we're all moving, right? You get it. You can feel the shift in this energy that we are in on the planet. Our bodies are changing. Our vibration and frequency within our body is changing. And therefore, we're not playing out stuff the way we used to play it out. Simple.
Yeah, so true.
And what I kept getting is people are recognizing that, yes, there's energy change, but who are you now in that? right?
Yeah.
So who are we now in that?
Mm,
And
mm,
I'm the girl that looks at that for me. So I know where I'm up to and what I'm up to and who I am in it, right? And what parts I don't need any longer. I'm dissecting it all of myself. I'm dissecting by looking at the relationships I have. That's the way that you'll see it clearer than trying to go in and go, okay, what part of me, where is what, and all of
Right.
that. If you've got something to sort of reflect from and see,
Yeah,
I mean,
mirror.
that's a better way to see it.
Yeah.
And so in that, I took everyone through these energy. They were sort of, oh, do I want to? And I said, you don't have to, we can just do what we do every other time, but how about doing something different? And so therefore, I took them through this energy work. And what they recognized was the change in their field, the
Mm.
change in their energy and the way they were working with it with their partner, because they teamed up, partnered up, and I took them through different exercises. So there was a recognition now of, right, I feel that differently now, and so that there, if everyone can start really focusing on energetically who you are, what is your field now? What is it?
mm,
What is it that you are now? Because it's
Mm-hmm.
different. And I know that's a weird thing to try and work out, but when you actually sit quietly and in stillness and allow yourself to feel into you, there's a shift in the vibration and the frequency of that as well. You'll notice that.
mm,
And you'll
mm,
notice that there's different desires coming through, different requirements as well,
yeah,
and what you might want out of your world now. So
Yeah.
lots have changed. And what you can do when you identify the part of yourself, say that you're in this relationship here and over there is the same, there's sort of a similar thread throwing there and there. And that part of me is not necessary to play anything out further,
mm,
because so if we see that, right, before I go on to something else, I'll answer that, is that you just acknowledge that and you see it for what it truly is. It's being really honest with ourselves. So if we were in a relationship with somebody and it was because we were getting all this back, heaps, might be they're a very kind, generous person that really cares for us and makes sure that we're, got this going on and that going on, and oh my God, I've got your back. Well, that's all really good, but is that necessary any longer? Does
mm,
that person have to put that energy into you any longer? Are
yeah,
you really requiring that? Is it time that you've now allowed to grow up and not have all of that?
Yeah.
And
So
so
it's kind of
my
like a
whole
cleanup.
thing, yeah,
It's a
totally.
cleanup
Like
kind of. Yeah.
if you think about this, think about ourselves as we're living in a holographic realm, right? So
Mm-hmm.
everything that's in your realm is your holographic creation. And we are the most supercomputer. We're the ultimate supercomputer. Everyone's worried about AI. It's nothing on us. Our soul, our being is the ultimate computer. So when you upload a whole lot of stuff on your computer, you start running out of RAM, right? And
Yeah.
it starts lagging. You're getting no room to store stuff.
yeah,
That's what we've been doing. We've been storing and stashing all this stuff over lifetimes. And now it's the big clean out. We're emptying it out
yeah,
into the empty bin, the recycling bin. It's like that. But until you look at it, you will just carry on. Most people will just carry on being the same in every relationship that they always have
Mm.
because it's familiar. It's got a comfort in it in some way, even
Yes.
mm,
if it's uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
yeah,
so it's time to clean up and to look through all of your files in your computer and see what is needing to be deleted now. It's not necessary to hold on to that. It's a
yeah.
Yeah.
really interesting process, I have to tell you. It really is.
It's
Yeah.
so,
Right.
it's so important, but it's so hard, and it's so easy not to do. I mean, it's really hard to not do it. Like, it's really hard to live your life with no RAM left over, and
Yeah,
but it's really easy to just like shove that task to the side and just like ignore it. And I think
exactly.
it sometimes like I'm kind of at a point where I'm actually really grateful for being here in Scotland for 6 months because I'm settled down. I'm in a place, I'm living by myself, like in my own apartment.
Mm.
And I'm like it's really intense because the past, it's so funny. Everyone's like, oh, wow, you're living so, like, all the things you're doing, like, how are you keeping up with your life? It's like, no, this is fun. Like, I've been traveling here and there, I've been around the place, like, I've been doing so much and distracting myself and not having to stay still has been a lot of fun and exactly what I wanted. This
Mm.
being here is the hard thing. This is the intense thing, is sitting down and being with myself and journaling and meditating when I've accumulated also so much gunk over the past few years, well, especially this year traveling, like that I've experienced so much and there's stuff to
Mm.
process. I haven't processed any of it. And there's
Yeah.
traumas that have happened and there's wounds that have deepened and I mean, there's as much as it's been fun and amazing and like all happy and like I'm living my dream and this is incredible. There's also been like deep wounds that have come up, but it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I'm going off to Bulgaria tomorrow, so don't have to worry
Yeah.
about that
Haven't
right
got
now.
time.
Yeah, I haven't got time.
Yeah.
And
No.
all that is like coming up in giant waves ever since I've
Mm.
arrived here, because it's like um I'm just still and I just have to face it all. And I can't distract myself in the same way. Well, not that I was really I was actually too busy a lot of the time. Like I genuinely didn't have time to deal with this stuff most of the time. But yeah, it's very, very deep and it's very intense. And I see how you can get caught up in life and kind of just shove it away and just kind of ignore it, especially
And jog
when
on.
yeah,
Exactly.
especially
Yeah.
when you don't have the insight that, I guess more awakened, spiritual, in touch people. Like the only reason why I even know to deal with this stuff is because I had my big spiritual awakening and I realized, oh, this is a really important thing to my being, to my well-being, to my health, is dealing with
Yeah.
with my traumas. But when you don't know that, they're just so scary. It's like, why even go there? Like I don't need to go there.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's just very interesting. I even talked to my friend about it, and she's my friend. She also is a traveler. Like she travels a lot, and she's got a um deeply traumatic past, and like a lot of childhood trauma, a lot of stuff that she hasn't dealt with yet. And I talk to her about it a lot, and like we'll have conversations and I'll say like, I'm so sorry that happened to you, or even not just that, just like, are you okay? Are you all right? And like,
Mm.
trying to be there. And her response is like, I don't want your pity. Like I don't see these experiences as trauma, and like I just see it as my my life. And as much as I respect that perspective, I think you can balance that out a little bit. But I see it so much with people. Like I think it's just an excuse in this scenario to not deal with it, because this is because I know her. She's like a really good friend of mine. So I know she's not dealing with it. But
Yes. And it's a
yeah.
spiritual bypass. That
Yeah.
whole bypassing it all instead of, yeah, for
Mm.
sure.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think also like I respect, not dwelling too hard on the traumas, because that's sometimes what I do. Is I'm a very deeply sensitive person. When something traumatic happens to me, I'm like I focus on it for a long time. And I think that's what's been hard for me about traveling full time, is because I feel the traumas so deeply, but I don't have the time or the resources and the energy to go in and heal that while I'm on the go so much. And so it just
Yeah.
like, I just still feel it. So I do respect, uh, that, I don't know, what she said about it not being, I don't see it as majorly traumatic and blah, 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 blah. I see that that could help me holding a perspective similar, where it's more like, um, doesn't have to be so, scary, and it doesn't have to be so, hyper fixated on, which is also true, in my case. But yeah, I think finding that balance and, dealing with traumas and accepting that you're hurt and um choosing to stop
Yeah.
for a while and like looking at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And things will park up. Like I park things up until I've got time to get in and go and have a look at it all. But I see it a lot. I see so many of, it's not a judgment either, it's an observation. A lot of
Mm,
spiritual teachers, healers, all of those people that have not done their stuff, they're not going into the deep dive, and they're not working on the inner stuff. And it's
mm,
that's all good. That's their stuff.
yeah.
But it's we can't get through, we can't get on until we go through. We've got to go into it. And it's again too noticing that a lot don't work energetically, looking at the energy of things, like, what, like I've talked about it before in the sense of the 5G, or we're going and talking about the chemtrail stuff, the sprays and all the things. And I'm not saying they're not happening. Of course they're happening, but they don't have to affect you.
Yeah.
So again, if we look at ourselves as the supercomputer, then there's nothing that can alter this. There's
Mm,
Yeah.
nothing unless
Yeah,
we
Mandy,
allow it to.
that's so, what you're talking about now is so true. Like actually there was a time in my life where I was really worried about those things, and like,
Mm,
it was like, why are we getting these towers built everywhere? Why is there spraying in the sky? Why is all this happening? And I was like, hang on a minute, Claudia. If you start to focus on these things, it's just another layer of fear that you're allowing
yeah,
to come in and
yeah.
control you.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have any personal control. Like, I can't go out and rip down the the towers,
No.
and I can't stop the planes from flying, right? So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I need to focus on things that I can control and that
mm,
are going to benefit me, because that's ultimately my responsibility, is to
Yes.
choose the things in my life that benefit me, right?
Mhm.
And so over time, I've started to realize that the, the things that the fears that I was having over these things were actually not founded.
yeah.
And the 5G isn't affecting me like I thought it was going to, because I'm more connected into my body than I ever have been. And
Yes.
and my body is actually what communicates to me what's going on around me. So
Mm-hmm.
my body is the 5G of my life.
Mm,
That's right.
And yeah, and so when I listen to my body and the feelings that are coming in, and the intuition and everything, like, because the intuition is what's triggering the reactions in my body. When I listen to those things, I don't get steered in the wrong direction. And that's so
mm,
much more powerful to me than any
Yes.
kind of outside wave, or, anything that's trying to interrupt my intuition or things like that.
Yeah.
And my intuition is still growing, and it's still getting stronger, even though these outside influences are trying to stop it from happening.
That's right. Yeah. But
yeah.
And so I'm not
uh,
scared anymore.
no, but they're not
No.
doing it. And so there's a that this is them doing it to us, right?
Yeah,
It's
that's what people think.
yeah, because that's a belief that's going to be appearing like that.
Mm.
to validate that belief. So everyone
Yeah.
who's on that trip are going to get proof of them doing
Yes.
it to them, right?
Yes.
And so when you get it, when you really get that you're doing it to self,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
yourself projecting this into your hologram, and the
Yeah.
hologram's
Yeah.
only going to show you what you're projecting in.
Yeah.
So it's simple in respect to that, once you really can get that, but it does take a bit. And
Mm.
Neo could do what he did in the Matrix because he knew he was the Matrix. He was the Matrix. He didn't just believe it and embody that and know that that's how it was. He actually was it. And
Mm.
that came from him not just thinking it, but knowing it, so it's the
Yeah.
embodiment of things. And when we embody it as an experience in the body doesn't change. Like I was saying to somebody the other day about seeing things the way I see them, the way I was seeing something. It was around the realms at the moment. And this person said to me, "Oh my God, how do you see all that? I don't see all that." They go on. And I said, and she said, "And you remember it all? Like, how do you remember it all?" I said, "Because I'm seeing it through my body. It's as if I'm
Yeah.
walking there in my
Mm.
physical, and therefore my body has recorded it, it's experiencing it, so therefore it doesn't forget it."
Yeah. That's so
And
Yeah.
true.
that there was there was an aha for her in that. It was like, yes, that's right. Okay, I get that. So it's not
Yeah.
a mental thing. It's an
No.
embodied knowing that it
Yeah.
is.
Exactly. It's an
Mm.
embodied knowing. And when you have had that experience, then it's like, oh, yeah, I understand that. But until you've experienced that embodied knowing,
Exactly.
it,
Mm.
it's very difficult to understand
Yeah.
what
Mm.
you're talking about. And like listening to you right now, it's like, yes, that's exactly how I
Yeah.
experience things, through the feeling in my body and through the communication that I have, the relationship I have with the feelings in my body. And as a child, I had it all the time. And then growing up, I left my body. I left that relationship to
Mm.
just sit on the back burner. And
Mm.
because, I learned that my body, particularly as a woman, that my body couldn't be trusted. And, I was focusing on things like weight and the way it looked and things like that, rather than being in my body and experiencing what it's like to actually be in my body. I separated from that.
Mm.
And it's only been since my dad died, the last 10 years of this, awakening and this spiritual journey that I'm on, that I've started to come back into my body, and I'm starting
Mm.
to experience what it feels like again to be in my body. And the communication that is happening is like all the time. It's like incredible.
Yes. Yeah.
It's actually incredible, and it feels amazing because I feel
Yeah.
like I've come home.
This is your
Yeah, it's beautiful.
intelligence, our body's
Yeah.
our intelligence. And when you actually do, like you say, anchor into it, and that's what throughout my whole time and working with people on the, table, energy, working with people on the table, they were never in their body properly.
Yeah, right.
And,
Mm.
and many don't live in their body properly. They're all half out or a long way out. And,
Yeah.
Mm.
and only a portion of them is in here existing
Yeah.
enough to exist and get the body to work itself, because it's too painful here, it's too harsh, it's
Mm.
too
Yeah.
much. And this is where more and more, as we move through this energy, and because we're creating this energy, it's us that's creating it with this Papatūānuku, our Earth Mother, and she's coming forward now in a really strong, just straight away got goosebump everywhere. And she's coming through with huge messages at the moment, and it's like she's now, this divine feminine has really woken up, and it's really embodying. It's now about the body. It's about
Mm.
listening to the body, feeding it the right things, doing what it needs to do, um, for it to be a better version itself as well. It's all of
Yeah.
that. But it's an incredible, it's just an incredible journey. It really
I
is.
I really resonate with what you're saying, Mandy, about like the body, and it's about the body and femininity and coming forward. I I don't know, I feel like the past, kind of mostly in Scotland, but also the past few months, like this calling to live a certain way where I'm cooking everything from scratch, or like as much as I can from scratch, and hiking when I can. And this desire to live this life deeply in tune with my body and like what my body wants, because what my body wants is what I want deep down. Um, but for a long time, like I couldn't, like I was feeling a bit trapped because I was on the go, so I didn't have time to cook meals, and I would be changing my location every day, and that really imbalances my, I've learnt, it
Yes,
balances
yeah,
me.
I get that.
And yeah, and so I would wake up and I didn't have the energy to go out on a walk or go out into nature, unless it was like to explore a new city or to explore like a new town or whatever. And yeah, it was like I felt very kind of dampened because I wanted this lifestyle, but then I couldn't, like I physically couldn't do it.
Mm.
Um, but I spent time like taking time to manifest it and taking time to really visualize it. And it's crazy what the universe does, because I envisioned, like I remember telling someone, yeah, like I want to live in a place. I don't even know if this place would exist, because I want it to be a town with everything that I need, but then I also want it to be in the mountains, but then I also want to have the sea, and then I want to have
What?
a really good hike. Mum knows where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
I also want to have a really good hike, like 5 minutes away. And like I was listing off all these things. I would love rivers and enchanting forests. And I found it. This is where I
I was
am.
just
Like
gonna say it'll be
literally,
there.
yeah, I'm here and I created it. And it's only my second week, so I'm still adjusting. But yeah, it's exactly what I was saying. And I genuinely in that moment I was voicing it, and I believe in manifestation. I know, of course, but I really was like contemplating, is this even possible? Because like I've
Yeah.
never even seen any place like this. Like I can't imagine being in the middle of nowhere, but also being somewhere where I have shops and this and that and the other. And yeah, this town is insane. I'm in the middle of the highlands, like mountains, snow-capped mountains, and there's a hike 5 minutes away, like a genuine, like you go up a hill and you're in all these valleys, and you would never know that the town is just at the bottom of the hill. You would never know. And there's the ocean, and there's like everything. There's everything. So, um, yeah, I feel like I'm getting ready to really connect with my body, as you were just saying, Mandy. I'm actually in the process of making homemade dumplings. And so I'm going to get
Mm.
back to them once I finish this. But I made everything from scratch, from the dough, like the dough for the dumplings, and the filling, and even the chili oil. And the reason why is because it's kind of forced me, like I say, I do have everything that I need, but there's no place to
The
get chili
food.
oil, unfortunately.
Food.
So I
Right.
I
have
was
to
gonna say she hasn't got the food she wants.
no. So yeah, but I've always wanted to try these things, but I've just never had the time. I always wanted to try to make my own chili oil, but it just like um it just wasn't viable in the past, but now it is. So I'm just
Mm.
like making chili oil and dumpling cases, and like it's crazy. And this is what I wanted, but it's wild that I got here. It's very surreal. So yeah.
I
Julia, I'm
know.
so glad that
When
you recognize it.
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And when you actually sit in the creation that you've put out there, next thing you're sitting in that whole creation, in your holographic world. You've created it. It's like, oh my God, it's, high five self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did it. It's
Yeah.
such a cool thing. It's such a cool thing.
Yeah.
It really,
Yeah.
really
It's
is to
beautiful.
create into matter what we actually really, truly desire and just want
Yeah.
to experience, want to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's very weird, but in a good way.
Yeah, yeah, for
Yeah. And
sure. Yeah,
the fact that you're in it now and that you're talking about it to us and that you can recognize that you manifested it and that it's everything that you wanted and that
Mm,
you're appreciating it, that's another level again, because a lot of the time we can manifest the things that we want and we're in it and we go, this isn't great, I don't want to be here.
yeah.
yeah.
So the fact that you're appreciating it and that it's something that you're enjoying and that you're grateful for it, that's another level. Like, that's awesome.
It's totally that, but it's conscious creation. You were
Mm,
consciously putting that together, and now it showed
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
You've created that into matter, and that's the
yeah.
thing. What we've been doing is moving through life unconsciously,
Yeah.
just dealing with everything that comes up because we weren't aware of what we were actually creating into being.
Yes, so
Now
true.
Mm,
we are. It's like, well, and this is another thing I see so many people that know that, really know that, but yet don't utilize it, not
mm,
using
Yeah.
it, not actually putting it into play, and and living disappointedly in their life, disappointed
yeah.
with situations and their things, and
Yeah, so
and
true.
it's classic example was the other day, a friend of mine wanted to move the big um camp trade, camp um mobile home
Oh, yep.
to go and empty out the bathroom and fill up with water and things like that. So these ports that they can go to do that. And he needed to take it and do that. And then he's sitting there going, I need to do that, but I don't want to move today. So then he goes to move later that evening and thinking, oh, should I better, you know? And then he couldn't get the ignition wouldn't work. The key wouldn't turn over in the ignition. And then there's fireworks go off because it's like it's not happening and
Yeah.
ruddy round. And I just gently said, but you didn't want to go anywhere today. Trying to
Yeah.
get him to click into shit, actually, I probably created this, but he was too far in to get it all that. So I left it for a couple of days. And when I just gently said, remember energetically, you just didn't want to go anywhere. And he goes, yeah, yeah. And I went, so and he goes, right, oh God, yeah, okay. And just
Yeah.
that whole thing. But by the 2 days in, he'd got to the point where it was like, I have to do this. This has got to work. I've got to
Yeah.
get it sorted, and I'm ready to do this now. And I said, well, then just allow the angel to come in that's going to help you do that. Sure enough,
Mm,
a guy turns up. He says, I think all it needs is this, puts a bit of oil in the thing, and the whole system just turned on and worked. And
yeah.
didn't have cost him anything because he's like, oh, it's going to have to cost me all this money. It's like change the program.
Yeah.
You know, when you just
Yep.
sit back and you just allow a bit of time and space and a breath, breath works great. And just allowing that shift, it's like reset
Yeah.
it. If you've seen that you've started creating something that's shite and you don't really want this, reset it because you have
Yeah.
that possibility, you've got that. You can do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So yeah,
Mandy.
that was
And
the best.
I think fear gets in, or anger gets in, or the fact that you're not trusting, or like all these programs that are like not working for us, they're not helping us, they kind of
Failure.
set in. Like, he was
Yeah,
angry, and so he had to have a
yeah,
couple of days to deal with the anger, and so he couldn't
yeah.
manifest the angel, and things like that. Like, they get in and they interrupt us.
So do
Yeah.
sabotage. It's the mind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sabotage,
Yeah,
exactly.
Exactly.
So
yeah,
if we can maybe go, okay, I need to take a step back and just chill out for a sec and figure out what
yeah.
I'm going to do, and not let the anger or the fear or whatever it is, like, because it's there, it's going to be there. Those things are there to
Absolutely.
help. It's like they're ancient things that fear is there to help us run away from things and stuff like that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when the stress comes and those things take over, that's when we need to consciously say, no, thank you for being here, but you step aside, I've got this.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then consciously create from that space.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
what
important.
would I would always sabotage in respect to I think I've said this before, be late, so I'd go maybe for it's going to meet people, or I'm going to a job interview, and next thing my car battery's dead or my tire's flat. And it was always something to do with my vehicle. It was like my vehicle always just chopped it out. And I got to a point where recognizing all of that, and then because you expect it, right? You're already set up. You're thinking, oh God, don't tell me I'm going to wake up in the morning. And you try not to have those thoughts. Once you get it, you think, no, don't go there. It's all good. It'll be okay. Then something does happen. What used to happen for me is I would sit in it and I'd take a breath and I'd just go, okay, so this has happened. Now there's going to be a solution to this, which is really through ease and grace. And instantly it would be over and done with within a moment, rather than dragging out and having to repeat
Yeah.
it 2 weeks later because I've made it this big, huge thing, you know?
Yeah, beautiful.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I love
So,
that.
and it's, it's that Melanie, I always forget her last name, Melanie someone. She's a public speaker, she had addictions and things, but she came through and she now has this reset thing where you go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're taking yourself back to that. Like every time I say it, I can feel myself going back. And it's like you come back to that point and then you reset it and move on again. So it's a really
Oh,
cool
I
little
like that.
exercise. And if there's anxieties or there's maybe an anger, you just go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you come back to the point before that reaction.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
it's a good little thing. Like I say, I feel it every time I say it.
Wow.
Yeah. I felt
Mm.
it while you were saying it. I could feel it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great little tool. I loved it.
Yeah. I
Simple.
like that. Thanks for
Very
telling us
simple.
about that, actually,
That
because that's I think that's really useful, because what I do is when my thoughts start to get away with me and I get negative, I just go
Yeah.
cancel, cancel, cancel,
Yeah.
cancel. And then I try and go back, and sometimes I can't get back there.
Yes.
So counting backwards like that, I think that would
Yeah.
help. Mm.
Yeah.
that's like the ultimate little tip to leave
Yeah.
us and leave this episode, because we've reached an hour somehow. I don't know how the time went by.
Very quickly. It
Yeah,
did. It
but
was all good.
that was
Beautiful.
a really awesome way to end it, actually, with just that. Oh, with that nugget of information and like that tool. So thank you. And thank you
Yeah.
for coming on this week, Mandy.
Thank
Yeah. It's
you
good to
for
see you
inviting
again,
me. It was
Mandy.
so lovely to see you both.
Yes.
Yes.
Really, really lovely. Been missing you, Claudia, on our little yak
Yeah.
too.
I'll be missing you too, Mandy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll have to get you on as a guest. But yeah, cool. Well, beautiful. And yeah, much love to you both and your families and everyone else out there for watching. And thank you, Susan, for being on my end of things here on my page and following through with this, enjoying the conversation, she said. So that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Oh,
Awesome.
thank
Thank you,
you.
Susan.
Thank you,
All
Susan.
right. Mwah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mandy. See everyone next week.
Bye
Bye.
Yeah.
bye.
Bye-bye.